senior pastors and youth pastors, and how the approach is a little different towards youth ministry. The perspective is a little different. So I'm probably going to jump between those two perspectives. Number one, the first thing I want to hit on is you have to, if you're a youth pastor, you have to know your why. Like, why are you doing youth ministry? Why are you in this? And you need to have somebody really ask themselves, like, am I passionate about this? Because a lot of people say youth ministers stay in youth ministry for an average of 2 years. So, and I don't think that's something to look down upon, like with young pastors coming up, because if you're wanting to be in the ministry and you want to be a pastor and you're trying to feel it out, where else do you get to serve and get an opportunity to preach on a regular basis? It's in the youth ministry. So it's not something to look down upon if someone's like, well, if you're not in this youth ministry thing for life, then we don't want you. That shouldn't be ever conveyed, because it is a stage of life sort of thing for young ministers. And every person that I talk to that's 18, 19, 20 that I want to be in the ministry, they get saved, they get inspired, they want to jump into ministry, they always just jump into what they see, and what they see most is platform ministry. And so you get a lot of young people wanting to jump into that, but there's so much more to youth ministry and ministry in general. So I think just approaching youth pastors to make sure they understand why they're in it, and not to diminish anything that they want to do or why they want to do it from the beginning, to have a good conversation with them. Senior pastors or top leaders, I think it would be good if you are able to answer this one main question with them. So this is the question that I asked Pastor Ron. I said, Pastor Ron, I need to ask you a question. And actually, this question came from Pastor Tavner. I called him up because he used to be a youth pastor for Redemption, and then he became a senior pastor out in Tennessee. And I said, hey, you're a senior pastor now. You were a youth pastor under Redemption. How should I approach this role? And he said, you need to get Pastor Ron to answer this one question for you. And I said, okay, what is it? And he goes, sit him down. And like I can actually sit him down anyway. I had to like beg to get a meeting, but I got a meeting, and I asked him this one question, and it was, what is your vision for youth ministry? And that is a key question. And young youth pastors, you need to go to your senior pastors and ask them the exact same question, because a lot of youth pastors are full of zeal, full of passion, full of like, let's just go do this. I want to change the world, but they don't really interpret the dreams that they see themselves participating in for ministry in terms of what the senior pastor wants. And senior pastors on the other side of it, you're going to have to imagine and think like, well, that's why I have a youth pastor. Frankly, that's why I hired a youth pastor. That's why I put that role, is I want them to think about it. But yeah, they can think of the nuts and bolts and the hows and stuff. But as far as the what, it would help you and the youth pastor if you would say, this is the vision for the youth ministry. And he, Pastor Ron's answer wasn't necessarily like super specific. He goes, I want you to do something. I want you to reach the area. He's kingdom minded. I want you to expand. I want you to take over all that. But he said, I want you to do wide events, and I want you to do narrow events. Wide events are like Fortnite tournaments, competitions like that, fun stuff. And then narrow events are, you bring in the Holy Spirit. That's where you get them saved. That's where you get them inspired. That's where you have a worship time. That's where you have preaching, testimony, get saved, experience the Spirit of God. And then he said this third part, and then get the young people into the life of the church. So do wide events, do narrow events, and then get the young people integrated into the life of the church. And that gave me a framework to just go and run with. So when I went back to my team and I spent time figuring out how to interpret that dream in a practical way for the youth ministry, we then could come back and say, we want to do these 3 or 4 really big wide events. We want to have a weekly or a monthly service that will allow us to have a Holy Spirit, new person can get saved, can get touched by the presence of God sort of experience. And then we also can do we can also serve the church by getting young people into every aspect of it, like get into the parking lot ministry to greet, get into the steps, be the people that run up to people and say hello, be an usher. It's inspiring to see a 15-year-old ushering in the church. And then if you want more young people in your church and involved in the church, you got to put them on the platform. What they see on the stage is what you're going to draw. So put some young people on the worship team, have them do announcements. You know, it might be rough. Partner them up with someone that's more seasoned. But if you invest that time, if you think about it, the whole face of a building of a church could be changed by just integrating 10 young people into it. So you don't even need to have a huge youth group to have a youth feel everywhere. And then when the youth are involved in the Sundays and they're involved in what the main church is doing, the parents notice. So you got a couple different groups. You have church kids, and then you have the lost kids, and you have to reach both. Kids that are raised up in church or grow up in church, they got to kind of get, I don't want to say saved again, but they have to have their own experience when they reach the age of 14, 15, 16. They need the same experience that they had when they're 5, 6, and 7 in the children's ministry. They need that again. And so that's the time of separating from parents, but also we need to keep them close to parents. So it's like, you got to figure out how that's going to work for you. There's so many different ways. The way that I look at youth ministry now is I used to coach girls middle school volleyball. I didn't used to. I coached it 1 year, and that was like the most painful experience of my life. But the things I learned there was this. The girls that I had in South Carolina, I don't know what happened there, but the middle school girls were allowed to play high school. I don't know why. So all the best middle schoolers got moved to junior varsity and varsity, and I was stuck with the worst of the worst of the middle school players. I was all excited when I started with them because I was like, oh, you're only in 7th grade. Awesome. You're going to be amazing for me. Nope. They went to play high school. I got stuck with those that never played, that were like, we both cried together. I had girls that wouldn't come out of the bathroom. I would cry outside of the bathroom. Anyway. So what I learned there was this. When you're in middle school and when you're raising up a young person, they need the same things taught to them over and over and over again. So when you're learning a sport like middle school volleyball, we worked on serving, we worked on passing, we worked on hitting, and we worked on just knowing how to rotate and move on defense. That's it. So every single practice, it was the same thing. We didn't get fancy because they weren't strong enough to hit the ball over the net. So I was going to show them how to do a jump serve when they didn't even know how to toss the ball up and then hit the ball. So with middle school and high school, it's the same thing. They got to do the same stuff over and over and over again. And so if we're going to jump into first, what same stuff are you going to do over and over again? So that'll be like your rhythm. How do you schedule out your approach to discipling the church kids and reaching the lost kids? You're gonna have to come up with that. There's so many different things. There's a youth ministry out here, and I'm studying them. And let me tell you some of their story, because they're about 2 years ahead of where we're at here. I talked to the youth pastor, and I went to an event that had 2,700 high schoolers and middle schoolers gathered at their church. And it was an amazing event. They had, first of all, just tons of kids just in their sanctuary, and they had a campus clash where they had called every single student, every single school in their area. There's 9 high schools, and they challenged each other to pep rally type things. Like they would have the strongest students, and they would have a 4-person tug of war. And then they had a cheerleading competition, which was a relay race. They started off with the girls doing their cheers, and then they went and took a selfie. Then they went on little tricycles, and then they traveled through like ooze and mud and all this kind of stuff on the stage. This is on the stage of the church. And then they spit goldfish into a punch bowl. I'm going to do that this Sunday for the graduation thing. Like it's the crazy stuff. Like these are the girls. And then they had a smartest student, and then they had tablets, 9 tablets, and they all would pick answers on multiple choice, and it was on the screen, this huge screen behind them. And it was so much fun, and they were so engaged and had so much energy to it. And they didn't mention Jesus once until the end of this event, when they had them all sit down And he had raised up, this youth pastor, he had raised up 5 of his leaders to give a 3 to 4 minute testimony. And they all went up after each other immediately. And they were very polished. They knew what they were doing. And they always ended every statement with, if God did this for me, why can't he do it for you? Next person will come up. Hey guys, I'm a senior from such and such school. I'm a cheerleader. And this is what God did for me. Tell their story. If God did it for me, why can't he do it for you? Hey guys, I'm a sophomore from this high school. This is what God did for me. If he did it for me, why can't? And they 5 people in a row. And it was such a compelling presentation of the gospel. I was in the back. I wasn't part of like the special group on the stage or anything like that. I was hearing all these kids swearing, like talking bad, checking out girls. Like, it's just like I was in the bullpen. Like it was crazy. It was sweaty and people were getting mad. It's just normal youth stuff. I loved it. And during that presentation, people were quiet, listening, and then they gave an altar call. If you want to get, if you want Jesus in your life, if you want purpose in your life, who wants it? And this is California. This is in California. Tons of hands went up, and then they gave out connect cards, and they couldn't get everyone to the altar because this is thousands, and they tons of people got saved that night. And that's just an example of what they did. They do that once a year. Now, to work backwards out of that, I talked to that youth pastor. I go, how did you do that? How did you, and he goes, okay, so in their area, they're in an area called Modesto. They have 9 high schools around their area. And what they did is they built 9 house groups for each one per school. That's how they started. So they got 9 families that were able to connect up to each school to adopt that school. And so every single, this is what they did as of 2 years ago. They had a youth service on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, they had house parties, call them house parties, life groups. And their goal for the house party is to provide a party experience. He said Generation Z, or high school age and down, they want a party. And so what they're looking for is a big gathering. They want at least 50 people there. They want lots of sound. They want lots of energy. That's what they're looking for an event to go to. He goes, millennials, the older ones, college age and above, they're not looking for a party. They like to connect and talk. So they want groups of 15 to 20, 20 or less. So because they want to sit around and they want to connect and they want their relationship and they want to have deeper conversations. The younger ones just want to run around and go crazy. This is amazing, So you got to build for what audience you're going for. And their goal was to get 10 house groups with 50 people in it, so they could have 500 people in life groups every single week. This is youth. This is awesome. And then he said that they tried to build relationship with the school, so they were on the school doing clubs, and they were doing stuff, but then they got kicked off because people got a little too zealous. And so they every single Wednesday before their service, they would hand out palm cards on lunchtime telling every student, like, come to our service, come to our service, come to our service. And how could they do that? So he backed up a little further and he said, okay, so I got like this leadership team / interns thing that I do. And so I'm like, so what does that mean? So he goes, our volunteers, we ask them to give up their Sundays and give up an entire Wednesday. They do their service on Wednesday. So they show up at 10 a.m. at the church, and then they do a prayer time, a devotion in the morning. Lunchtime, they go to the schools. Then they come back after passing out cards and talking up the thing. Then they come back for a leadership lesson, and then they do some more ministry training stuff. It's basically an internship for ministry. And then they set up for the service. Then they receive the kids. They do the whole service. Then they break down because they have to turn their sanctuary into a youth sanctuary, and then they turn it back to the adult sanctuary. So they have to set up, do the service, then break down, and they're done at around 11, and then they all talk to each other, like, how did it go? And he said he started with 40, now he has about 100 leaders in a year that he does that with. So let me back up a little further beyond that. I go, dude, I want to do what you do. That's amazing that you have an event that has almost 3,000 students. It's amazing that you have a weekly service of about like 500 to 600 youth that they say do not gather anymore. Youth don't gather. They all do virtual stuff. And then I said, and then you have house groups. How do you even get parents to volunteer? They donate money towards their food, their house. The church doesn't give them any money. The church doesn't supplement that. And so he goes, he goes, let me tell you what I did. When I took over the youth group, the previous youth pastor went and planted a church with about 40 or 50. They went to another state, and they all went with him. It wasn't a split. It was actually the pastor's son. It was an actual plant. So his team all moved with him. I don't know how he did that, but they all moved to another state. So he had 0 leaders. And that youth pastor, the one that left, he sat down this guy and he said, this is what you need to do for the next 6 months. Because he's like, how am I even going to put on a service? What am I supposed to do? You took everybody. And he goes, you need to take the next 6 months and you do a service, but it doesn't have to even be good. Just have something. But you need to put all your energy and all your effort into raising up a leadership team. And so I asked him, are you talking about a high school leadership team or an adult leadership? He goes, adult leadership team. And he goes, if you could, college age would be the best. And so he said, there was no college age ministry. The young adult ministry was not there. So he goes, so I had to start one. And by starting one, they the church had a coffee house in the downtown Modesto area. And they did open mic nights. And they did just come and drink coffee, do your song, do your poetry, do your act. And at the end of the night, he had his worship leader come up and sing one song. And then he would come at the end of that and say, if you want purpose in your life, if you want God in your life, if you want love in your life, come meet us at the stage after this. Thank you so much. He didn't do like some like super deep whatever. He would get like 10 to 12 people responding to him every single night. And they would do this monthly. By the end of 6 months, he had 40 people that he had not just raised up, he got them saved. He got his leadership team. He made his leadership team. So I mean, not every one of us have access to a coffee house downtown, but we can create the same thing. These principles all exist for every single one of us. And so how I interpreted that, and I'm hoping this sparks ideas for you, is in the fall, I'm going to go after college students also. So I'm like removing the pressure. I had to have this talk with Pastor Ron and my, the leadership, say like, is it okay if the youth group does not explode right now, and I take the time to build up a leadership team and draw in volunteers and get them ready for what we're going to do? And we're going to launch a youth service, not in the fall, but in January. And I got the okay from leadership, so that to remove the pressure of like, I need to have a gathering of 500 students or else I'm failing. Like, they took away that pressure because I explained the vision that you want, the students involved in the service. You want them to get saved. I need a leadership base. And that needs to be built up first. So I was able to get permission for that. Our goal during the summer is to do a lot of fun stuff. I'm reaching all the church volunteers that I can. I want to go after all the ones that are already here, like who wants to be involved in the youth ministry. So that's my target right now. College is not in session during the summer. So in the fall, we're going to target San Jose State University, and we're going to look at their move-in dates for the freshman move-in dates. And we're going to bring coffee. And this is something that I learned from Ed Savoso and Transformation Ministries, is how do you change, how do you disciple a person, an institution, a city, a nation? It's all the same 4 things. Number 1, you bless someone. Number 2, it's fellowship. You hang out with them. And then number 3, you pray with them. And then 4, you announce the kingdom to them. And it's the same principle for changing anything. And he says most Christians go the opposite route, that they will announce the kingdom initially, the first thing they do. And then if they receive the kingdom, then they will pray for them. And then after they pray for them and they think they're good, they will fellowship with them. And then after that, maybe they'll bless them. He goes, flip that, change it. And so we're going to go and we're going to bless the college students and help them move in, give them coffee, give them soda, give them pizza, and just connect with them and say, hey, what we do is we hang out. You guys are all about causes while you're young, all about what the world possibly could be. We want you to see our cause. We come to this. We're going to call our youth building a coffee ministry, an open mic place. I don't know. And then we want to get them in. We're going to do the same thing, try to get them saved. We're going to be evangelistic and just try to build a leadership team to launch a youth service in January. And my goal is to get 50 leaders. I got like 25 right now. I need to get 25 more. And I feel we'll be ready in January to begin. So can I go into I just have a few more minutes, but this is what he did to adjust his youth schedule. So he used to do a Wednesday youth service, a Thursday house group day, and then on Sunday he would do leadership in between their two services. And then the youth would always, he was over middle school all the way through college. They had a student section and they took over that section. Like they had like 400 to 500 that was all students, and their section was the rowdiest, loudest, most supportive. And he goes, we supported the senior pastor. When he was preaching, I was standing up, I was pointing, I was building up the senior pastor in the kids' eyes, and connecting them to. If you can show that you can connect your students to the senior pastor, you will see a lot more blessing coming from the top down, because they'll know that you're all about making what their vision, again, going back to that first question, what they see happen. And that'll kill a lot of the questions of like this young person, are they all about themselves, or are they about the vision? Serve first, bless first. And so he would do a Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. He said that was getting a little too crazy and hard for his volunteers. So he switched to a monthly Wednesday service and then 2 life groups during the rest of the month. And what he did is he recorded 2 lessons on YouTube that were like 6 or 7 minutes. And then they would play that lesson, and he was done with the whole month of curriculum by just doing 2 5-minute videos. And that way he could control what was being taught in the lesson as far as the substance part. And then he would have his leaders go through a guide that he would provide with the students and do a discussion. So he would empower them to do that. So that's just an idea for what he did. He did a monthly gathering, and it really helped because it's growing, because people are much more open to volunteering once a month like that. And then also the events that they could do, they could put all their resources towards one big one. So it just really helped out. Another thing, budget-wise, this is like I think a super important thing. After you get the vision and you come back with a proposal of how to make that vision come to pass that the pastor wants to see, you can then say, I want to do this, 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 and this. It's going to cost around this. How much money I asked this question. I go, how much money am I really allowed to ask for? Like, because I didn't know. Am I asking for too little or too much? Because I come from like a small church background. And so for me to ask for like even like $100 was like kind of like hard, because you're supposed to raise it all yourself, you know? And so I asked Pastor Ron this. I go, Pastor Ron, I need you to teach me how to think. Teach me how to think. And he said that that's exactly what I want to do. And I think we as youth pastors or in youth ministry need to know how to think. We need to learn how to think, get out of our small mindset. Because I was thinking about, if Pastor Ron was a youth pastor, he would think big, he would think huge. And so I got triple the amount of money that I proposed, because I asked my executive pastor, how much money am I allowed to ask for? And so he expanded my once I showed how we would bring the church's vision to pass, much more resources came in. Pastor Ron always says that how to make vision come to pass, you need people and resources. I don't have the people, I'm going after them. And then I also I didn't have any resources. Now I did after my proposal. Anything, let me see. Oh, leadership team. This youth pastor, he said that, you know where most of my budget goes? And I go, where? And he goes, it goes to food, buying food for the volunteers. That's where most of his money goes to. You don't have to buy a bunch of t-shirts. You don't got to do all that. Buy food. Let them know that you value them. If they give you 5 hours of their time, feed them. Pray with them, hang out with them. It's just naturally built. The relationship is built into the eating, right? Like put some money towards that. Pay for all the pizza. Make someone else bring the salad. I don't know, but that'll really help out. And that's a practical thing. What you teach and everything in those meetings, like that's that we don't have time for all that. But let me see. Oh, real quickly, I want to go through. When we did a really big event called we did a Fortnite tournament, and that brought in like over 2,000 plus people through our building. How did we do that? Number one, we had a bigger budget. Number two, we had a whole bunch of things. We announced what we wanted to do. We want to do a tournament of Xboxes, and we want to see thousands of students through this. Once we stated the vision, people came out of the woodwork to donate to that. So that's another thing. Like you need to be bold and state what you want to do after you get approval from the top, and you will, things just happen. God honors faith, right? So you're gonna have to do stuff or announce stuff, and then things just come in. And we had 32 Xboxes donated to us. We had 32 screens donated to us. We had to, the church had to buy the internet, had to get power put in. And again, it just comes down to vision. Like, do you want to put resources towards that? We used Facebook ads. We used Instagram ads. We used email blasts. We had to find different ways to do registration that would get rid of liability stuff. Do your events, and as you do your events, you will learn how to do, like, if you have a small event of just like 50 students coming to it, do a full registration, do a liability form, imagine what it would be like if you had to have 1,000 students there and set it up that way. That trains your volunteers to prepare for growth, because one day the wave will come over, the tip will happen. And I was noticing with kids, it's just a matter of I thought like I had to be an amazing preacher for some, but actually if the marketing is good, you get them in there, and you know what, God is good. So when they do get there, they will feel something, and they will respond. We don't have to put so much pressure on our ability to perform to get people to accept Jesus and start serving God. So I think that's it. We can go in further detail later, but it's 9:29, so I wanted to stop here.
No, you're good. We still got at least one or 2 minutes, so we wanted to make sure we open it up for Q&A. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself, and we'll give time for 2 or 3 questions if you guys have some. There we go. Go for it.
Okay. I love everything he spoke about. I think the same way. I don't think small, I think big, because we're not just ministering to young people, we're ministering to the entire family. Right. So my question is, how do you get the parents involved to also be part of volunteering? Because they need to see what their youth are learning.
Yeah, two things. I think you need to, number one, that's why the youth being involved in the main building, you don't even need to say anything, they'll just see it. Yeah. I see my 12-year-old greeting at the door, they're going to be moved. Yeah. If I see them in a section and they're raising up their hands and they're worshiping God, they're moved. That's why it's good to be visible when the parents are there. Second is, there's no way around it. You gotta do meet up with the parents, yes. Once in a while. You send an email, do a video, talking to them, build that relationship that way. And then the parents, you just put at the end, we need your help. We need you to do, and be specific. We need you from this time to this time to do this, this, and this to see this result that we're going for. And if you have access to simple videos, everyone has their phone. Oh, yeah. It would be great if you can make a simple presentation and then post it.
I'm thinking of having a youth parent luncheon to explain out the vision and what we're going into the book from Kyle Idleman, Not a Fan, How to Be a True Follower of Jesus. So the parents have to be involved because the kids have to use an actual journal every single day. Right. And if the parents don't know what their kids' faith is being built upon, I feel that they also need to speak about it at home with their parents, not just the youth pastor or leaders. So I love your idea, and I think that that's something I'm really going to do this summer.
If it is possible, it would be really great if you have the access to the church website, because I want to do this too, and under the youth tab or something, be able to have that, what you present at the lunch, do on the tab, because you're going to have new students and new parents coming in every single week.
That's good.
So that would be really a blessing. That's what we want to do too.
That would
be great. I actually designed the website, so yeah, I could do that.
Oh, okay. Well, then, dude.
So he knows somebody. And listen, I see Pastor Michael showed his face. Pastor Michael Lyons from Ohio. He's one of our overseers. Did you have a question, Pastor Michael? I saw you show your face, so I didn't know if you had a question. You're on mute, though. You got to hold on. Let me unmute you. Let's see. There we go.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. Not really a question. First of all, great job, Matt. And I tell you what, you guys, just great information. I think it's important that we all understand that, as we begin to think about our vision and the ministries that we're trying to work through and grow and catch our pastor vision and work under, that, you know, everything is different a little bit depending on where you are, your location, your zip code, the populations that you're available to get a hold of. But always remember to just take what you hear and try to grab the nuggets that can work in your place, but don't be afraid to try. I think that's one of the things that kind of put us out when we hear big visions such as what's been given and big ideals. And a lot of times fear grips us and keeps us in what's familiar. So I just encourage everyone to try to grab a hold of some of these things and these ideals and go for it. And I might be preaching to myself right now in this moment. The other thing that I wanted to ask Matt about is, Matt, can you give me some idea of the retention level that happen even from your fortnight? You know, a lot of times we put out big events and we have big gatherings, we get a big draw. We do certain things around our ministry, and we've had a lot of kids come in for like what we call it overtime. A lot of people call it fifth quarter and things like that. And we've had big moments. How did you get, what was your retention from the fortnight? Is the fortnight an ongoing event?
No. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, that was like the first thing that I did youth-wise. They had the Redemption, the conference, and
right.
they gave it the pastor. I didn't even do service yet. That was my first thing of doing youth. So I pretty much started youth ministry doing an event here. So retention-wise, there was nothing. like it was a big event for us, but I had no service to point them to. I had no volunteer base that existed. I basically had to just get everyone on the staff. Everyone came together for an event, but they're not going to always be there. So that's why the wisdom of that youth pastor telling me, don't do anything except build your volunteer base for 6 months and get that team in place. So as far as retention, not much. But I will say this, the splash that we made in that moment, like people know about it. And so
Sure.
like it reverberated throughout the city. So I guess the point of that event was just to say we're here. But as far as like for me and the youth, the youth team was me because I came in during a transition. Everybody that was previously there basically left. They just,
Sure.
they didn't want to serve under a new thing. It was just a normal transition thing. So retention wise, yeah, that's why we're looking to do intentional events that will bring people in, but have the team set up to retain and follow up in a way that we can say, come meet up with us to do this and hang out over here. And yeah.
Well, listen, you guys, we have run out of time, but listen, Pastor Matt is great. He's definitely, he loves helping people, and if it's going to make a difference, he's willing to kind of give time to it. So we'll definitely include his information for you on the recap email that I send with the recording and the notes and all that good stuff. So, but I did want to let you know, listen, we do giveaways every week for any live viewers. So I did put a survey link in the chat. And so if you'll jump in there and click that link really quick, it's literally 4 questions. And would love to kind of hear your thoughts, ideas for speakers and content, and just what you thought about it. And that helps us to continue to serve you guys best with topics that are relevant and speakers and things like that. So be sure to fill that out. And we got a giveaway package with some of Pastor Matt's sweet gear, as well as redemption gear and some books and stuff that we'll send your way. We'll do a drawing tomorrow morning. So just make sure that that you fill it out by tonight. And I wanted to let you know too, we have Pastor Kay Golden is going to be with us next time, and she is going to be doing iChurch, ministering beyond the walls of your church in today's digital driven culture. And it's just a look at Redemption's online church. So I know so many people, obviously people are still gathering in buildings, but the largest church is beginning to be that online community. And she is so amazing. She's on it, diligent, and has so many great ideas. And actually, Craig Rochelle's staff that runs his online church just called her to ask her advice on some stuff. They use their platform, but that just shows that she's killing it. She's doing a great job. So if you are a growing church and want more information on that, that will be on June 27th, 12 o'clock. So invite any staff that would benefit from that. But Pastor Matt, thank you so much for joining us and
Thank you.
all that out and sharing. I took tons of notes, of stuff that just applies to all areas of ministry. So I think it was super relevant. So thank you so much for joining, you guys. Until next time, you guys have a great week. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Happy Memorial
guys.
Weekend. Bye.